Hey everybody, my name is Ben and I'm going to be showing you how to make the ultimate street hockey stick using one of Top Flight's shafts. Okay, so here we go. If you're just getting into the game of street hockey, it's a lot of fun. But like a lot of people, you're wondering what stick to buy. You might go on Google and just type in street hockey stick. And typically what you'll end up buying, probably if it's your first time ever buying a stick, you'll buy one of these loads of garbage that is made specifically, they say, for street hockey. Now typically what that means, it's a really heavy wooden shaft and it's got a plastic flexible blade. The problem with that is you'll start to think that you suck at hockey and need to try a new sport. But the truth is, this blade is so flexible, the ball isn't going to go into the same place twice because of how much flex is in this blade. Your shots will be off, your passes will be off. It's a load of garbage. Second of all, if you decide maybe you're going to spend a little bit more money, and you might even spend upwards of $50 on a Primo Street blade. Typically what that means, again, is that it's a solid wooden shaft with a very heavy ABS blade. It's nice, it's a step up, it's a little bit more durable, but it weighs a ton and people will be deking all around you and you'll feel like a slob. Okay, so what do? Do you spend a ton of money, upwards of $200, on a solid piece carbon fiber stick? Do you do that? Because what happens is when, maybe you've tried this, is when you get a solid piece carbon fiber stick, it's all one piece up into the blade, the toe of that blade will likely split in your first game. What happens is, it's annoying. It scratches and catches on the pavement, the blade begins to shatter a little bit. Also, because it's street hockey and you're not using skates, but you are running and marching around, somebody inevitably is going to step on your stick and crack it in half. So again, what do? Well, these guys at Top Flight Hockey, I don't know where they're getting them, and I'm not going to ask any questions. They're getting some Primo shafts. So I've got one here. It is a Bauer Nexus that was actually played in an NHL game by, I don't know this guy's name, but he's in the NHL, you guys.
Wow.
And so they actually get these sticks from these guys. And again, maybe they dumpster dive. I have no idea how they're getting them. But here's the thing. You can get all the latest technology that all the billions of dollars in R&D are going into for the 5K weave, the 10K weave, the synthetic weave. You can get all kinds of weave. Not only that, but they actually have flex to them, which is great. Unlike the solid wooden shafts, these basically weigh nothing and they actually have flex to them so you can put some more power into your shot. So what do? Now that you've figured it out, Top Flight has great shafts. So what you're going to do is you're going to buy a shaft that has a lot of length to it. They're going to ship you that shaft, and when you get that shaft, you can get a shaft like this Bauer here. I've got a CCM Super Tack.
Officer, I got one question for you. What are those?
For instance, the STX Surgeon. This one typically comes in a really corny baby blue. Some reason this one was red. I feel like I got a deal here. It was probably some kind of prototype. They've got all kinds of sticks and all kinds of flex ranges. If you're not familiar with flex, typically you want something that is half, the number is half your body weight. So you can put some flex into that stick so you can just get some more power into that ball. So you're going to go on there, you're going to buy a shaft, and you want it to be relatively long. For me, I'm 6 foot tall, so I try to find something upwards of 55 inches long on there. And what's going to happen is when you get it, you're going to decide which end of the shaft you want to use. If you're using something like a CCM trigger, what that does is typically towards the end of the shaft where the blade typically is, there's a lot of technology there. I don't know, it's something fancy. Has it been down the whole time? This sucks. Typically, a shaft will have most of its technology towards the tip, towards the blade, but if you wanted to, you could always use the other end of the shaft. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to decide which end of the shaft you're going to use, and you're going to buy the appropriate blade. The blades that I like the most, and I've tried a lot of them. CCM has a blade out there. That thing is garbage, no offense to them. It's an ABS street blade, but it basically shatters the first time you use it. I've used some Bauer blades, and they're great as well. But these Frontier blades, have simply been the best for me. They come in one of the widest ranges of curves, so you can go whether it's inline warehouse and buy one that's in a specific curve that you want, but they're super rigid and they're incredibly, incredibly light. And so what you're going to do is you're going to buy either one that's traditional or one that is tapered. And what they're talking about is the hosel. Housel, little doohickey thing that you put in the shaft. And so you're going to get the right one. I'm going to do a close-up here so that you can see the difference between these two blades. And then we'll shoot that later in post. Are you still rolling? Okay, good. And so what you're going to do, now if you got a traditional blade, it's super easy. What you're going to do is you're going to take that traditional blade and you're going to meet it up to the opposite end of the shaft that the blade would typically go. Typically you just heat up the glue that comes on the blade with a heat gun and you slide it right in. Now the great thing about this is if you're playing street hockey, likely somebody's going to stomp on your stick and break it. All you need to do is heat up that glue again with a glue gun. Sometimes I drill a hole through it, slide a screwdriver through it, gives me some more handle for torque, and rip it right out, and then you can insert a new blade. So if you're going to use the tapered end of the stick, it usually requires a bit more work. So what you're going to do is take the tapered blade and you're going to line it up with the tapered end of the shaft, and you're going to see how well it fits. Typically it won't fit very well right away. You want it to be somewhat tight, but trust me, not too tight, otherwise you'll never get it out if it breaks. But you want to line it up, and then if it doesn't really line up and fit too well, you can just basically eyeball it. You're going to take it to a saw, and you're going to basically saw off basically 1/8 of an inch at a time. Saw off 1/8 of an inch, come back, measure it up, saw off 1/8 of an inch. When it starts to fit pretty well, that's when you're going to heat up the glue. I like to put the blade in the shaft. Once the glue is nice and slippery, I like to pound it in there, just cram it in, and then it's in, and then you have a super snazzy stick. Here's some tips for you. First of all, before you pound it in, if you've noticed here, I've kind of got this, it's easier to see on this side, I've kind of got the stick upside down. So you're going to make sure you kind of line up the letters and the logo with the blade before you smash it in there. But basically that's it. That's why I say to get the longest blade that you, or the longest shaft that you can get, because you're going to have to trim it back if you plan on using the tapered end of the shaft. Once the blade's in there, you can cut it to size on this end. One of the great things I would say about these sticks is you can because you're pretty much always going to keep this shaft and just replace the blade, you can put some money into the shaft. You can get, I love these little, I forget what they're called.
Sniper tag grip?
No.
Snake grip?